Hello everyone, my name is Elle. Welcome to my channel. I own Insight Transformations and I channel Temperance, a judge in the spiritual courts. One of the things that I do here is I channel the weekly message, and these are beautiful readings for my collective. A collective is a group of people who share a common goal and a common experience. So collective readings speak to that, but everyone has their own unique experiences as well. So without further ado, I am going to read the collective reading for this week, which is November 24th through 30th, and it is called The Well of Source. Creative energy, also known as source energy, is a self-regenerating well. When we create in harmony with the universe, the raw material we create from is a larger pool of material than what we draw out, so there will always be more than enough. Like drawing water from a well with a dipper, we are pulling a small portion from the larger whole. This method of gathering to fit our needs is sustainable and leaves material for others when it regenerates. This can be called the law of sustainability. Many natural systems also follow the law of sustainability. Grazing animals migrate to allow for vegetation to regrow. Forests incorporate decomposition into their regenerative lifespans. Apex predators in ecosystems only eat until they are full, and then they rest, play, or enjoy other modes of existence until they are hungry again. All of this hinges on balance. In the Law of One, Ra delineates how the concept or energy of service became polarized into service to others and service to self. Beings who chose to align more with service to self abandoned the well dipper method and learned how to suction every particle of creation they could reach out of the pool. They took more than they needed, which created scarcity and made other beings dependent on them to share. If they did not share generously, others went without. These beings abandoned good faith and mutual care, getting drunk off their own excess. At one point, they witnessed the lack they created, which struck fear into their hearts, and then they turned to more greed to reassure that fear. They chose to place themselves over all others out of the delusion that there wouldn't be enough. This delusion of lack became their reality as they practiced more unsustainable energy consumption and had to continually draw from the well of source or steal from others' supply. Greed, which created lack, became a justifiable solution for the lack they experienced due to their actions. They inverted the truth to continue doing what they had once known to be wrong. When we realize that greed creates lack, we are able to logically see how generosity creates abundance. In a world where the greedy and the generous exist together at the same well, it is not enough to simply be generous. One must discern when to say no and have the resources to enforce it. This enforcement takes many forms. One we interact with consciously is karma. Karma, as it was taught, states that those who are greedy will experience lack in the next life. However, having the proverbial shoe on the other foot in the next experience has not been enough to safeguard the generous or stop greed from continuing. Lack creates more greed in those who lean toward service to self and away from service to others. On the spiritual level, we collectively created more complicated contracts, and we introduced punishment. But without adequate arbitration, these contracts became another perpetuator of greed. Contracts were passed from one person to another through inheritance, underwriting, assumption of another's debt by atonement, and added clauses. The justice system became distorted by separation, allowing for inversions of justice and accumulation of debts so high that no soul or group of souls could possibly pay them off by atonement. This created even more scarcity. To combat scarcity, beings with the ability to regenerate were enslaved and forced to give the energy they created to those who were powerful enough to take it first. These generator beings allowed their alignment with service to others to be used this way at the beginning, out of concern for the beings who were unfairly lacking. They trusted those in power to distribute the energy to the powerless, but there were no restrictions detailing how much everyone should get. The devil was in the details, and the details were subject to change without any further agreement from all parties. Universal law is much like earth law in that a court case to interpret the law allows for legal precedent, which changes how further cases are judged. Separation among those who write, judge, and experience the law is an inversion of the balance needed to correctly arbitrate justice. One must be able to connect the consequences of each action back to the whole. As such, the divine judges of universal law participate in all the steps of writing, enforcing, and experiencing to see all the consequences of the law. These judges must be able to confer with each other, sharing their experiences in good faith. Some beings who incarnate to experience the effects of the law do so not because they need to pay karmic debt, but because they need to report back the effectiveness of the law as it is written and carried out. With this understanding, there comes the question of how to navigate lack and abundance as an incarnated being. How do we, as the most powerful movers of energy in the game, bring balance back to the system of service? We as light workers must learn how to speak and enforce a healthy no. We must choose to reclaim our discernment and choose where to give and how much. Our generosity is not in question, but rather our courage to see the world as it is and set healthy limits. We must also dissolve the contracts that perpetuate lack and punishment. Punishment has been shown to create more lack, which deepens the debt. We must embrace grace and forgiveness, knowing that true justice does not require more suffering. We as humans are energy generators, and therefore are capable of creating our own abundance. The ascension of Earth and humanity is the solution to the universal problem of lack. Therefore, it is your divine mission as a human on Earth to be abundant once more. The universe values your life and your efforts as precious beyond account. May you see how important you truly are and love yourself enough to be happy and abundant in this life. Elohi John. One of the things that was not quite touched on in the message, but that was inherent in it, is that those who break the law and get into lack and greed are not capable of arbitrating the law or being a judge. So when a judge arbitrates these things and creates universal law, they also go down to test it out. But not everyone who is experiencing lack is a judge, and not everyone who experiences lack is one who is stuck in greed. The interesting thing about this is that often we cannot judge who is who until we tap into our own intuition and discern where they're coming from. And that can be kind of a trial and error game. The biggest piece of advice that I have for this process of interacting with other people and understanding universal law and understanding justice is focus on you, keep your eyes on your own paper, and really check in with yourself. And if needed, ask the universe to bring in justice. Bring justice in, not bring injustice. Funny word plays. But it all begins with you. It all begins with your point of attraction, your point of understanding where you fall on service to others and service to self. And all of these collective readings are based on the assumption that you will check your own paper first, and that it is your benefit to understand how the law works and how the universe works. It is not enough to just know. It is important to also temper that with wisdom. And that's really what temperance is about, is finding the wisdom in the experience. every experience that we have on earth is going to be something that we can use to gain more wisdom. We can use to gain more clearing, more understanding. And the deciding factor in the courts is the measure of your heart. In Egyptian mythology, the judgment after one's death was whether their heart was lighter than a feather. That is one metaphor. But in order to be lighter than a feather, the heart has to be devoid of darkness, of this dense, not great stuff. It has to be pure. And we get there in stages. Sometimes when I sit in on a court case, what I see is that people have either the intention of doing better and are given the choice to do so with guardrails, or they do not have the intention to do better. They have the intention to deceive and continue to perpetuate darkness and greed and lack. And the judgment of the court is just. And it is something that it's not a punishment. Another aspect of this is that the judgment of the court does not include punishment. Everything is incredibly gentle and full of unconditional love. But being full of unconditional love, it is also full of unconditional boundaries. So that's something that I think is valuable to know. I will continue to share wisdom from temperance to bring understanding, because this is important work. This is my work in this body, in this life, to bring forth this justice and to connect with people who need justice. Because it's not just about whether you are good enough. It's about whether you have experienced something that needs to be balanced out in the courts. That's what soul contracts are. That's what karma was trying to do. Karma is being rewritten. It is being rewritten in universal law and in universal code. And it hasn't always been this way. This is a growing, ascending sort of situation. So that is the work that I participate in here. If you need a one-on-one session, I invite you to book. I will put my links where links are found in the description. And please do check out my pages. Right now, I am working to build my Facebook presence as well as my YouTube presence. So a like and follow or a subscription really help out a lot. This gets the message where it needs to go and brings people who are in need of arbitration of contracts and of justice for false contracts to the resources they need. Anyway, I hope that makes all the sense. Please subscribe to my channel, like and follow. And I look forward to hearing from you. Let me know how this information settled for you. Have a great week.